Hello friends, family, and internet strangers, Stephanie here, and today I finally have a new What's for Dinner video for you. I know it's been a while since I've had just a regular plain old What's for Dinner video that was not slow cooker or part of a collab. I have been doing so many collabs lately and I appreciate everyone who has hosted them and all of you who are watching and all of you who have come over and joined my channel from these collaborations, but it has meant that pretty much everything I've been cooking lately has been from one of those videos. If you look behind me, I have another one going right now. This is for next week's crockpot collab, that last Wednesday of every month collab that I'm doing for the rest of the year. So another crockpot recipe coming at you next week. But in the meantime, I finally have a new What's for Dinner video. But disclaimer, these are not summer specific recipes, but I'm so far behind in them that these are from August. So this is pretty much everything I made in August that y'all haven't seen yet. And then with my next What's for Dinner, I will be caught up to more current times, but it has been a long couple months. I am going to stop rambling here and let y'all hear me ramble over some recipes. Let's get into it. First up is a little bit of takeout. This is Pizza Hut. I like the breadsticks at Pizza Hut, just the plain ones. I don't need cheese on them. And then for pizza, I like the pork topping, and pepperoni is my favorite Pizza Hut pizza. I had just gotten home from a trip to Utah and I didn't have groceries really, so I just got some takeout. Next up, I also hadn't done too much grocery shopping, so I used up a burger patty from the freezer. Now, this ended up being a fail. It wasn't that the burger didn't taste good. I didn't get to taste the burger because after making it, and you'll see I haven't completely finished in this video. Yeah, after making it, it fell on the floor and there was no salvaging it. It was very sad. But to make the burger, I used the Amazing Burger seasoning. That's literally what it's called, Amazing Burger seasoning. I cooked it on the stove top, put a little cheese on it, put the top on to melt the cheese a little bit. And I did have some corn on the cob. This summer did not feel like summer to me other than being incredibly busy at work. I did not have any concept of summer. The things that I was doing did not reflect anything that I couldn't do the rest of the year. So finally I had some corn on the cob and it felt like summer for a couple days. I simply steamed it in the Instant Pot, and then the way that I always had it growing up was to brush melted butter on it and then add some salt. So we always had melted butter and salt. Nice and simple. I still do not have a salt shaker yet at this point in time. I am, this current week that we are in now in October when I am posting this, I am celebrating 1 year in my apartment, and I just last week got a salt shaker. So I no longer have to use my hands to put salt on things, but that is what I've got on my corn on the cob. And then I was just gonna have this with some chips and dip that I had left over. The dip was in the fridge left over, and since I dropped my burger patty on the ground, so sad, I had frozen chicken patties and I just put one in the microwave. Speaking of chicken patties, that is what I had the next night as well. I had some of this bread left over and decided to make a little chicken patty sandwich. So I put a little bit of butter on my bread. I just heated it up briefly. I didn't need to get it too warm. I just wanted to make sure it was nice and fresh. I added a little bit of shredded cheese that I already had shredded up in the fridge, added a cooked chicken patty that I had cooked in the microwave, and a little bit of this chipotle mayo or chipotle aioli that I had found at Aldi on sale. And that was really tasty. I served this up with a salad, and my salad was very simple. It was iceberg lettuce, cucumber, a little bit of green pepper, and a little bit of cheese on top, and you don't see it here, but I put ranch on top of that. And then I had some meal prepping to do. I needed something for lunches for work, so I had made ground beef. I had ground beef to use up from, I believe this was something I got reduced at the grocery store that was about to go bad, because that is how I save sometimes on meat. If I don't have a plan for dinner, we'll just go to the grocery store and see what is reduced that is still good, but has that reduced clearance sticker on it. So I seasoned up my meat before I cooked it for a change. I just wanted to see if that added any extra flavor, because most of the time I see ground beef cooked with the seasoning added afterwards, and this was good. I put that amazing burger seasoning on this, and then I drained off all of the grease. So it didn't drain off too much of the seasoning when I drained off the grease, but you can see that the grease is a little bit redder because of the red seasoning that I put on it. That amazing burger seasoning is kind of like a red pepper type blend. And I think I got that at Aldi. I got a few different seasonings this summer that I really didn't use very much, because again, summer did not feel like summer, and now we're in fall and it doesn't feel like fall either, except I have had more apples now that we've been in fall. So once my meat is cooked, or mostly cooked, I had some chopped up onions and peppers that I intended for a different recipe, but I wasn't able to make that other recipe, so I decided to make this kind of a substitute. I had planned on doing a Philly cheesesteak type rice bowl, but the meat that I had pulled out of my freezer had not thawed well. It did not smell right, so I ended up not using it, and this ended up being a different night, but I had already chopped up all of my peppers and onions for it. So I decided to add it to the ground beef, and this did turn out really well, although the way I'm going to show you this plated up was not my favorite way to eat this. Honestly, this mixture, plain over brown rice, which is how I had it for lunches for the rest of the week after this, that was the way that it was best to me. So I like my stuff to be nice and soft. I added water. I added a little bit of salt and pepper, and then some of this buttery burger blend, which is Kinder's, and it looks really similar to the buttery steakhouse blend that I keep seeing people use. I do not know if there's much of a difference, because they honestly look pretty much the same, but I haven't tasted the other one yet. So I stir that all in, and since I do like my peppers and onions to be nice and soft, in addition to putting the water in there, I also let this steam for a little bit. I put a lid on top of it, and then once it is all soft to my liking, I decided to add a little bit of cheese. But because I was going to use this for meal prep, I only added the cheese to what I was going to have for dinner this night. So you'll see I'm only going to put 2 slices of cheese on this, right over the portion that I ate for dinner. And then after this, I did have 2 lunches worth out of it. So as I mentioned, the lunches were really good, plain. It really didn't need the cheese. I served this over brown rice, and just the brown rice with the peppers, onions, and beef was tasty. And then in addition to that, I also added a little bit of that chipotle mayo that I had put on the chicken sandwich prior to that. I put a little bit of that on top of the bowl. Wasn't necessary. It tasted fine, but it tasted pretty good without it too. Next up, I have some kind of clearance cooking going on here. Again, the reduced stickers. I love them at the grocery store. That's where this asparagus came from. And then I knew that I had stuff in the freezer to use up, that I'd be able to find something to go with the asparagus. I like my veggies soft for the most part, so I boil these for just about 2 minutes or so to take some of the crunch out, and then I drained the water out of here. I add a little bit of avocado oil while this is off the heat, and then once it goes back onto the heat, I add in some seasoning. I used the corruption seasoning for this, so if you are new here, welcome. I hope you'll consider sticking around. I talk about this corruption seasoning all the time. It is from a place in Memphis, and I usually have it linked down below. This is not sponsored at all, but I do really enjoy my corruption seasoning. I picked it up on one of my road trips, and I will have another road trip video coming out soon from that trip to Utah that I had mentioned when I got the Pizza Hut at the beginning of the video. I had just gotten back from a trip to Utah, and I still just have to edit that video. So to my asparagus, I add a little bit of a little bit of garlic. Words are hard. And just mix that up with the seasoning, the garlic, and a little bit of oil. And that's usually my favorite way to make asparagus, is seasoning, garlic, and a little bit of oil. And then I had in the freezer, I had gotten from Aldi Boston Market meatloaf, just frozen Boston Market meatloaf. I used to have a Boston Market right down the street from where I work, and I went in there so often that I always had a name tag on, so they knew me by name. But when I lost my name tag and kept going in there, they knew my name even without the name tag. I miss that Boston Market. It was taken out a few years ago. So this is not as good as what you get at Boston Market, but it did the trick. Next up, I have had so many collabs lately, and that's kind of why my What's for Dinner videos haven't been happening as regularly. But one of them that I did recently was a What's for Breakfast video. And when I got back from Utah, I had made a quiche prior to my trip, but when I got back, my eggs were still good. I still had the heavy cream and milk and pretty much all the ingredients. Plus, there was then breakfast ham on sale at Aldi the week I got back. So I decided to make another quiche. So I will link down below the full quiche video that I have, but this is just a brief glimpse at how I made a different quiche. That one was a quiche Lorraine. This one I used the same egg base, so the same egg and cream base. I used Swiss cheese that I also believe I still had left over from that original quiche, and then I just added breakfast ham instead. The other change I made to this, because it had been kind of watery last time I made it, I was wondering if the onions were part of the reason for that. So I tried to use minced onions, the dried, dehydrated minced onions, instead of fresh onions. It still came out watery without the crust, but honestly, I don't mind it. The texture of the quiche is still the same, even without the crust and even with the modifications that I make to the original recipe. I just kind of drain the watery part out, and it's all good. And it tastes delicious, and it reheats really well. And you don't have to worry about the crust getting soggy because there is no crust on it. So once I get all of my egg mixture, I just pour it over the top of my cheese, ham, and minced dried onion and put that in the air fryer. Now mine, it always varies in time, so just cook it until a knife comes out clean. When you're making quiche, just make sure it's fully cooked before you eat it. I had this with some frozen Brussels sprouts and a little bit of fruit from the fridge. And then the last thing for this video, I had to go get an oil change, and while I waited for my car, I went down the street to COCO'S Bakery, which is a chain. I don't know how big of a chain it is. I had never eaten there, and I will not eat there again. This photo makes it look delicious. It wasn't. There were bugs in it, and the lettuce was bad, and I do not recommend. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found some meal inspiration and maybe even some meal prep inspiration. So I hope y'all will give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below if you want to try any of these recipes or if you have done anything like these before. And then if you haven't already, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and join my YouTube community. Thanks for watching.